Hey there, my name is Jamie and I'm from Not So Wimpy Teacher. I wanted to start by thanking Daniel from Mr. Malt's Marketplace for putting together this virtual conference. I know that it was a lot of work to coordinate everything, and I just love the big heart he has for helping educators and students, especially right now. So thank you, Daniel, for all your hard work. I am honored to get to chat with you today about how to use Zoom to do some video conferencing with your students. Now, more than ever, I think your kids really need to see you. See, we all have this need to socialize and be connected. And during times like this, your students, everything is so different for them, and they will get so excited to get to see you and their peers, something they're missing. Okay. So that's where I think video conferencing really comes in handy. Like, we can assign something in Google Classroom or send emails, but they really want to see and hear us. Now, I know that some schools do not allow video conferencing or do not allow the use of Zoom, but if your school does, then I really think you should take advantage of this tool, because there are so many things that you can do with it, and students really love it. It's very user-friendly. Okay, so usually the free Zoom account has some limitations. It limits the length of your meeting and the number of participants. But during school closures, Zoom has agreed to give teachers a free account that doesn't have as many restrictions. So we'll go ahead and we'll put that link up there in the video description. Use that link to sign up for your Zoom account. That way you can have up to 100 participants and you can have long meetings and as many meetings as you need, okay? So that's awesome. It is a free tool, and we all love free tools. All right, I'm going to walk you through step by step how to set up your meeting, get a link to send to your students, and then I'll show you what a meeting actually looks like and some of the features you might want to turn on and off to make your meeting easier to manage with your students. We'll even have a student come into the meeting so you can see what that would look like too. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you. All right, I am on the Zoom homepage. Once you get your account and you log yourself in, this is where you'll want to be. And then you're going to want to head over to my account. I'm always tempted to hit host a meeting because that just seems like what I want to do. But I've tried it a few times. That's not the route you want to go. Hit my account and then go over to schedule a meeting. Not host a meeting, but schedule a meeting. This way we can get a link that we'll be able to send to our students. Now you're going to want to go ahead and name your meeting. Instead of just like naming it like Tuesday's grammar lesson, I prefer to give a name that we can use throughout the entire time that we're doing distance learning, so that they can use the same link every single time. I don't want to send out a new link every day or every week, because my students will not be able to handle that. They will not be able to find the right link, and that will make it harder unless students will join the meeting. So I'm actually going to do a reoccurring meeting. That way it always has the same link, and that's why I'm giving it the name Mrs. Sears third grade class. You can do a description here if you want, and then you're going to want to choose your day and time and make sure that you have it in the correct time zone that you and your students are in. Now this button, if you are going to be meeting with your students once a day or once a week, I highly recommend clicking on recurring meeting. Again, this is so that the same link works every time for your students. So then you can decide if you're going to be having your meeting daily, weekly, monthly. Probably, I like the idea of daily, and you do it once a day. Choose your start date and how many of them that you want to have. You can change this. Some of us don't know how long distance learning is going to last, so you can change this later if you need to. So that's not too big a deal, but I do suggest choosing reoccurring, and that way, how I have it set up here, daily at 10 a.m. we would be meeting. And then every day at 10 a.m. students can click on that same link and I will be there. All right, let's talk about the meeting password. You can have a password. Just have this box checked, and that's the password you'll need to share with your students in order for them to enter the meeting. Now, know that Depending on your grade level, this might make it more challenging for your students to join the meeting. They lose the password, they don't know the password or know how to enter it, or they enter it wrong. Now, if this makes you feel safer, more secure, then by all means do it. I am not going to require a password because I think it will interfere with students joining the meeting. There have been news reports about Zoom meetings being hacked, but please note that in all these cases, the meeting link was posted publicly. They publicly put it on their website or their Facebook page. And so if you only want your students to come to your meeting and you don't want any intruders, then only give your link to your students. Now, if you want everyone and anybody to be able to come to your meeting, then by all means post it publicly, and you're going to get some crazy people. So it's up to you. You can have a password. I'm not going to have a password, but I know that my students will need the meeting link in order to join. Let's talk about video. I would definitely tell you to turn host video on. That's how your students will see you. And really, when you do a video conference, that is so important that they see you. Now, participant video, I turn mine on. I want my students to see each other too, but it's up to you. Some people feel safer keeping participant video off. That way, if somebody joined the meeting that wasn't supposed to join the meeting, then they wouldn't be able to be seen by the students. So that's up to you as far as safety. I like having my participant video on. Students want to see each other. They're dying to see their friends. Okay, audio, keep it with both. Let's talk about some of these meeting options. We don't want to click on this one, the enable join before host. That would allow them to come to the meeting before you're even there. That's not good news. That's like letting them in your classroom when you're not there. We don't want that. I do like this one, the mute participants upon entry. That means when they enter the meeting, they'll immediately be muted. And that's nice because it's like less interruption. So if they enter the meeting 5 minutes in, you don't want them to immediately enter. And not only do you hear them, but whatever background noise they might have, like if their mom is vacuuming right behind them. Wait room, this is totally up to you. This does give them a nice space, like a screen that tells them that the meeting's about to start if you haven't started yet. But it also means that during the meeting, if they join, you will have to approve them. So up in the corner, there'll be a notification that says, so-and-so wants to join the meeting, and then you have to approve and let them in. So that's another security feature that you can turn on. You just have to make sure you let your students in when they request it. And then I like this last one too. Record the meeting automatically on your computer. This is great because I have done so many meetings and forgotten to record it. And if you're having a meeting, it's not likely that all your students will show up live, but it's nice to have a recording that you could upload into your Google Classroom or your Classroom Dojo or something so that students could watch later if they were unable to come live. So once you've set up, you've named it, you've given it a date, a time, a couple of these options, go ahead and push save. And then this is going to give you the link that you need to give to your students. And it's right here, the join URL. Do you see that join URL right here? That is the link that your students will need. You can do the copy invitation and you can send it to them via email, Google Classroom, whatever other apps you might use to regularly communicate with your students. I recommend sending it any way you normally communicate with your students. That way they have multiple ways to get a hold of this link. They will need to click on this link when it is time for the meeting. So I set up my meeting to be at 10 a.m. So at 10 a.m., my students would need to click on that link to join the meeting. And when it's time for you to start the meeting, you're going to use that link too. So that's a really important link. And again, you don't want crazy people at your meeting, so don't post that link like on your Facebook page or on a school website that anyone can see. This should be shared privately with your students and families. Cool? All right, now I want to show you what it's going to look like when you get ready to do your meeting. And I do recommend you do this prior to the meeting to get more comfortable with all the different settings. But I can click over here to start this meeting just so I can show you what it's going to look like. Okay, here I am at my Zoom meeting. A couple different settings that we might want to mess with before our students come in. All right, if you hit the chat button down here, you see this little speech bubble, hit the chat button. This gives a chat screen that when you have students inside of this meeting, they can chat with you, with each other. So you might want to make some changes to what's allowed. And it might depend on your class, their grade level, and what they can be trusted with. But you can set it so they can't chat with anyone. That disables the chat altogether. You can let them chat with you, meaning they can ask you questions or answer you. That might be nice. You can let them chat with everyone publicly. That means if they put something in, you and everyone else can see it. Or you can do everyone publicly and privately. See, if you allow them to do private chat, right here it says it's going to go to everyone. But if there's more people in here, they'd be able to click and choose who they were going to chat with, everyone or just one student. So I'm going to allow them to do it, but only publicly because I want to teach a lesson. I want them to be typing out their answers and participating. So I'm going to do that. But you can mute people later. You can disable it later, but you need to know your class. And so maybe your first meeting, you allow no one or host only. And then you kind of like move up to this setting as you feel they can handle it. Totally up to you. Another setting that you're going to want to check on, let's hit manage participants. Now I don't have anyone right now, but you'll see a couple buttons. We can mute everyone. That comes in very handy. Guys, we don't have a button like this in the classroom, but we do in the Zoom classroom. So you can mute everyone, you can unmute everyone, but I want you to click on more. A couple different settings we already set up. We said everyone's going to be muted on entry. That means right when they walk in, they start muted. That's important. Now, this is one you need to make a personal decision about. Allow participants to unmute themselves. It can depend on the grade level and just your kiddos. Do you want them to be able to unmute themselves and talk when they want to? You can set up some rules like you have to raise your hand and when I call on you, then you can unmute yourself. Or uncheck this and now you can unmute them when you want them to talk. That's kind of nice. You probably want to leave the rest of these the way they are, okay? But I love that setting. Another thing I get asked a lot about that's kind of fun is backgrounds. You can obviously just have your own background, which is fine. Your students don't care. They see your house. They think it's cool. They see your dog in the background, your kids running around. It's okay. But kids really think this is cool too. You see this little caret next to the stop video? Click on this little caret and there is choose a virtual background. There aren't a ton. There's 3 that we can use with this account. You can teach here on a bridge. You can teach in the grass or in space. And then you just click here. See, I think your students will find it interesting for a little while. It is a little odd. I find it a little bit distracting, but I think it might be super fun, especially to start a meeting or just to, surprise your kids. It could be so much fun. So, and if you don't want that anymore, go back to choose a virtual background and choose none. And there you go. All right. Let me show you about sharing your screen, okay? Because this is what makes it really awesome. Like, yes, we can have a video conference. I can see my kiddos. We can chat, but we can do anything that we can do from our laptop, or our computer, we can now share with our students. So let me show you a couple of things. There's this green share button right here in the middle. If you click it, you're gonna have lots of options. First, I'm gonna show you the whiteboard. I've seen lots of teachers getting super creative and using even the tile in their bathroom as a whiteboard. But in Zoom, they do have a digital whiteboard. And so you can type, you can draw, you can just use it the same way you would use your whiteboard in your classroom and your students can see it. So this is an awesome feature if you're showing them how to do a math problem or demonstrating how you want them to do an assignment, then you can just use this whiteboard. Go up here to this red stop share. You see it up here, stop share, and then you'll be back on camera. Okay. Another share that you might want to do is your desktop. Anything you can pull up on your computer, you can share with your class this way. So by sharing my desktop, I can share a PowerPoint lesson that I have prepared. So I'm gonna just make sure you have the PowerPoint pulled up and ready to go ahead of time and that nothing's on your home screen you wouldn't want your students to see because they are gonna be able to see everything on your desktop. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my desktop here for a second so you can see. I'm currently on the Zoom site, but I'm gonna minimize that and boom, they can see this PowerPoint that I have. So This is a PowerPoint from one of my grammar units, and my students would be very used to having these lessons every Monday, so I could still deliver the lesson on Monday using my PowerPoint straight from Zoom. And so that is an awesome feature that I can do. I'm going to go ahead and go back up to stop share so that I can go back to camera. One other thing I want to share with you about share, if you want to, click share again. If you want to be able to share a video from YouTube or a song or something else that has sound, you're going to want to make sure and click on share computer sound down here. Okay. So if you want to watch a quick YouTube video together and then afterwards you have a conversation about it, or you want to watch a video on the Kids National Geographic site, then make sure you have clicked on that share computer sound. Then whatever your computer is playing, they will be able to hear too. So that's another awesome way to use sound. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and bring a student into my meeting now so you can see what that's like. And if you recall, I have mine set up to have a waiting room, so I'm going to have to approve students who come into the meeting. And so you're going to see up here, it says there's one person waiting, someone named Scott. So if you know the person, then you can push admit. And that is my husband right there. And so he's agreed to be my student. And now if you have lots of students in the meeting, you're going to see all their little pictures in a grid up here. A couple of things that I can do. Right now, Scott is muted because remember I had it set up to mute everyone as they come in. And so I can personally unmute him. I can stop his video. I can rename him. I can put him back in the waiting room. I can remove him. If you have a student who needs to be removed, you can remove them. Okay. Something cool Scott can also do down here, one of the options he has is to raise his hand. And as you see, he's got his hand raised now. You see that blue? And then there's a couple of things I can do. Now that his hand's raised, I know he has a question or he wants to answer my question. I can unmute him and then he'll be able to talk. Or I can lower his hand and now it's gone. Okay, so if you're asking questions, teaching a lesson, you can tell your students to use the raise the hand feature, and then you can decide who's going to talk when, just like you do in your classroom. That is an awesome feature. All right, so that, my friends, I'm going to go ahead and come back to you here. That, my friends, is how you can set up a Zoom meeting and share your screen to connect and teach with your students virtually. So I hope that you are able to take advantage of this awesome tool with your students during these school closures. It's just one way that we can still talk with them and be part of their new normal life. So let me know if you have questions. Just get in the comments, let me know. But also if you've done a Zoom meeting, let us know. Let us know what you did during the Zoom meeting that worked or didn't work. That way we can get some ideas for our next Zoom meeting from you. Again, thank you, Daniel. And if you want to get more resources and tips, of course, you can head over to notsowimpyteacher.com. Bye, guys. Have a not so wimpy day.